as we look at that, I want to talk about some very specific things about leading a team. And I know that as I'm sharing this, your definition of team is going to probably look different than those around you. So as we talk about this certainly can be a volunteer team. So there's a lot of translations there. As a general rule on the volunteer team, if you're working primarily with volunteers, you're going to give a lot more grace than what I'm going to talk about because you don't have this unfair advantage of paying them, right? And when you're paying someone, then you have a little bit more built-in accountability and expectation on both ends to be able to expect certain results. So as I'm going to walk through what I've done, I believe I would love to hit any kind of team type of conversations we can have. Ultimately, this is, I believe, the number one job of a leader is to develop people towards a mission that God's put in your heart. Right? You're developing people towards something. You're building a team towards something. Another way to define leadership is disappointing people at a pace they can handle in a direction towards your mission, right? Disappointing people at a pace they can handle as long as you're going in a direction towards your mission. And that's all right. So your job as a leader is by definition, you have people that you're leading. If there were no need for hard conversations, they probably wouldn't need you as a leader. If there were no need for accountability and expectations, there would be no need for you as a leader. Here's what I believe about ministry. Those of you who are newer to it, those of you who've been around for a lot of it, I think this would be true of any job, but it's not untrue of a ministry job. But 90% of what you're going to do, that's what you'll live to do, right? Like, it's great. It's awesome. There's a lot of your job you would do for free. But there's a part of your job they've figured out they have to pay you because you wouldn't do it for free. And if there's a day you wake up and you're like, this is a JOB and it feels like a JOB, it's because it is a JOB, okay? It's a job. So we have to do some things. Here's a couple of things right out of the bat. Hard conversations, easy life. Easy conversations, hard life. I have to be able to create an environment where I have hard conversations so that we can navigate smoothly. And I'm not trying to extreme, they all break down. But bottom line is, if I refuse to have hard conversations and I want, another way to say it, let me say it like this, is health and harmony are not the same. Peace and harmony are not the same. If you require harmony for you to feel confident as a leader, you're not a leader. You're taking a spot in hijacking everyone else's affirmation for your security. What I need to understand is, if I'm going to be a peacemaker, sometimes I actually have to make peace. And making peace isn't the same as faking peace. And so I need to value health over harmony. Another phrase that I like to use anytime I'm talking about people and team is people first, mission always. People first, mission always. Okay, no, it's not. I said it backwards. Okay, mission first, people always. So which is more important, the people or the mission? Yes, they are. Okay, they're both important. But what I like to say, mission first, is your job as a leader is make sure the mission gets done. What conversation needs to happen to be able to move towards the mission? What change in your organization needs to happen to best hit the mission? Mission first. And that is not an excuse to be a jerk. It's mission first and people always. People always is not an excuse to be soft. Mission first, people always. Now, parenting, we know this to be true. If I refuse to have awkward conversations with my teenage kids, right? I am not doing them any justice, any service, right? What I would always say when I was doing school assemblies for high schoolers, I'm like, man, what makes you popular when you're 17 makes you homeless when you're 37. You've got to be able to have someone in your life be able to say something that you don't want to hear and do it with love, grace, right? All that kind of stuff. So, leading teams. And I also want to say this, it's not lost on me that I am not your boss, right? It's not lost on me that you are in charge of you. And so I just want to remind you, if there's ever a part of this conversation where something inside of you wants to tell me, but Jeremy, you're not in charge of me, I just want you to know, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I ain't in charge of you, okay? Not my circus, not my clowns. I get it. We all have our own. But what we need to understand is there are going to be some unnatural things to see an intentional move of God. And that's why you are needed. So we're going to dive into this. Again, anything, I've prepared what I think could be helpful broadly, and then we'll see what we can answer specifically. And so let's dive in. First thing is this: how do I grow my team through one-on-one meetings? And I would say in every setting, even if volunteers, if you have a group of people that you are leading, you need to have one-on-one meetings. So I'm not going to dance around the fact that some of us aren't working with paid staff because they translate. I'm going to deputize you to translate for that setting. So I want to talk in the vein of a paid staff deal that we can translate from going forward. So what I want us to do is I want us to be able, as an organization, to be able to know what's going on. I have to have ownership and I have responsibility over the ministry. I don't need to know everything. I don't need to have knowership to have ownership, right? But I need to be able to let everybody on my team be able to give me at any given time what is the number one thing that we're trying to accomplish. So my job as a leader, and this translate, if I'm in charge of the kids ministry, I'm the leader. So that's what I'm talking about, right? If your job is the leader, you've got to take the mission that has been established. In my case, I'm not the boss of Northwest University. I have some bosses of Northwest University in this room, right? The board of directors are the boss of Northwest University. If I woke up tomorrow with a new mission, then I wake up the next day with a new job, okay? Or a new endeavor to get a new job. Because it's not my job to come up with a new mission. My job is to recognize if I'm going to have authority, I need to be under authority, right? We all understand that. So if you're a kids, working in the kids ministry, student ministry, whatever it is you're working in, the first thing that you should ask is always ask your leader, what is your vision for our kids ministry? Now, they might not have a vision for different methods. They might, okay? And that's great, and you can have that conversation. But you at least want to say, hey, as you dream, as you pray about what my ministry would look like, what are some things that you would say when you describe to your friends next year at the annual conference, the Oregon conference, how would you describe this ministry if it were cranking? And then just write down some notes. Some of you might feel like frustrated because you don't have clarity of what's asked of you. I get that. And I can promise you people I've led have gotten that too, right? Because that's not a natural conversation. Some of our leaders are resistant to coming across too strong, and it's not natural for them to say, here's what I want. That's all right. Your job and opportunity is to ask them. Say, hey, how would you describe us if we were cranking? What are some attributes, right? And ask that a few times. And that's not your time when you ask, if you're asking your leader to debate, right? It's not a pop quiz to see if they could guess what you're thinking. It's just to say, really, ask questions, clarifying questions, right? And then run with it, and then always evaluate. Is this kind of what you're thinking? Here's some things that I think align with the vision that you were talking about. Do you see it that way? Here's another question to ask someone, whether you're a leader or following, is what's it like on the other side of me, right? I dare you to ask your spouse that question. They might haul off and tell you, what's it like on the other side of me, right? What are some things that maybe aren't big enough for you to want to bring my attention, but you wish someone would? What you're doing is you're eliminating the conflict out of a growth opportunity, right? And so let's be that type of person. Now, what I didn't like is when someone on my team would sit down with a note and paper. What are the 7 things you want from my youth ministry? I'd be like, knock it off, okay? I'm not prepared to do a 7-point seminar to you, okay? How about I just, talk about a few things, right? So don't make them have a polished deal, but ask them often what they want. Once you have your vision, once you have the mission for your area, then what you need to do is you need to then lead that down, right? Challenges go up, okay? If I have a challenge with something in my church, if I have a challenge in my organization, I want to bring that up. I don't bring my frustration down. I bring my frustration up. I check myself so I don't wreck myself first, but then I bring my frustration up. Say, hey, here's something that's really tough for me right now to process. I'm having a hard time with this. Help me understand this, right? You shared you wanted this. I'm having a hard time making it happen. Can you say you're not sure, whatever it might be, help me. My frustrations need to go up, never go down, like in a multi-site setting. What I didn't want from my campus pastors is to take all their frustrations with Big Bad Central down to their campus. Nobody understands us at this campus. I'd be like, stop that, right? That's silo. What I want you to do is if you feel like Central doesn't understand you, get in my office right away and say, how come I'm having so much problem getting Central to help me with this? What do I need to do? What am I not doing right? And then let me help solve the problem. Frustrations up and then vision down. Pump vision down. Pump vision down. My job is to pump it down. What does my pastor want? What does my board want? What does my boss want? How do I now then carry that through? And that's how I want to lead the team. Now, with that, once you have your mission, you want to have one-on-one conversations with the people that are helping make this happen. And it's an acronym. It's GROW. How do we grow, right? So here's what I want to do. If I'm having a conversation, maybe quarterly, and let's say John is doing student ministry. I'm the lead pastor, and so quarterly I might meet with John and say, hey John, what are the 3 things that you're going to focus on this quarter that help us hit this mission, right? And these things might be the difference between lead measures and lag measures, right? If I'm pulling something from a rope, what I'm pulling is a lag measure. It's following. And what this end of the rope is the lead measure. I'm pulling it. And so church attendance isn't a lead measure. That's not like our vision is to grow by that. Well, that's a lag measure. So what are we going to do to get that? These are the lead measures that I'm going to focus on, okay? So we're going to invest X amount in marketing. We're going to do this invitation campaign. These are lead measures that we believe will bring a lag measure, okay? So maybe a quarterly goal is we're going to have 20% growth in our student ministry because we think that would help us with our mission. Let's just say that is one of them. We're going to have 15 students join discipleship, whatever it is. And then I would say, okay, that is what's going to happen. What are the 3 things you're going to work on this quarter? Okay, so now we got our goal. One-on-one. What I didn't like is one-on-one. I didn't like being like, hey, how you doing? How the kids? Kids good? All right, okay, that's awesome. Hey, what do you think about the Mariners, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da? And the whole time I'm like, okay, oh man, I don't have time for this. And it's not that I'm not relational. It's I want to be like, when it's time for business, let's talk turkey. Let's get there, right? And then if we have extra time, let's talk about the Mariners. So it was always awkward for me to say, okay, how do I now navigate and bridge and oops, now they're going to. So I would just say this, okay, we're going to meet, we're going to talk about the goals, right? And we're going to meet once a week. So grow, okay? What's the goal? G, what's the goal? And they should know the goal. If they're like, what was the goal? I'll be like, all right, we'll meet you next week. You should know the goal, okay? That will happen one time. Bring the goal with you. If you don't know the goal, why are we meeting, right? What's the goal? So say, okay, what's the goal? So there is that's science right there. That's not subjective. What is the goal? We already know what the goal is. We said it on the quarterly. It is we're going to grow youth ministry, Wednesday night attendance by 20%. That's the goal. Okay, great. That's easy. How long does that take to have that conversation? 20 seconds. Okay, R. What are the results? What's the reality? Okay, what's the reality? Where are we at? Okay, well, we've actually shrunk by 7%. Okay, it's not subjective. There's no emotion there. Emotion might be a lag measure, okay? But I'm just, what is the reality? Because that's a hard question to ask. I tend to ask it like, how are things going? And I know, I've seen some data. I had my daughter count, right? And I'm like, I'm trying to like help them, but I don't want to look like I'm spying. And so, you know what I'm saying? So this is easy. So where's the reality right now? Okay, cool. No emotion. I don't have to give any opinions. Oh, what was the opportunity that made that happen, or what's the obstacle that's preventing it? I'm just asking, quickly. Oh, so we're down 7%. We wanted to be up 20%. What do you think is the number one obstacle? What are a few obstacles that are preventing us from hitting our goal? Cool. W. What's the way forward? What's the path? Awesome. Sounds like you're tracking. Hey, I got a couple ideas. As you're talking about the obstacle, what if you considered this, this, and this? Cool. You're the professional. Have a great time. Right? Like, it's not emotional. Like, this is easy. We can have a conversation about any topic, any ministry in church, and it doesn't feel like I'm riding like too strictly. It doesn't feel like I'm overbearing. It helps me not insert too many opinions. What's your goal? What's the reality? Oh, wow, you're nailing it. Let's do the autopsy as scientists now. What made it happen, right? Like you're saying, hey, we had 50% more people than we anticipated at our men's breakfast. Awesome. What was the opportunity that made that happen? Let's do the autopsy on that great event. Because if there was something that worked, let's figure out what it was. They're like, well, it's because we had bacon. Okay? Then I would say, is it? Did you advertise you had bacon? And maybe that is the answer. Our whole advertising campaign was bacon, 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 bacon. And everyone's like, bacon, cool. Okay, well, we found what motivates dudes. Okay, awesome. Or, but here's the deal, like for real, you would say like, really, did you announce that? I didn't hear you announce that. So now if we're thinking like scientists, what we had isn't what made it awesome. We can tend to think that was, because it was, oh man, that was great bacon, but that's not why that many people showed up. Because they didn't even know that. That just made it cool. So what made it show up? Did we change the time? What were the variables that made it? And then we're scientists that say, okay, what are you going to do next? What's the way forward? So now I'm taking all my opinions. I'm doing all my questions for the first three. I'm letting them answer the question for the last one. And then if they're like way off, I'm like, really? Why do you think that will help? Like you really, come on, play that out. I don't buy that that's going to help. How's that going to help us? Or maybe it's a great idea. You're like, wow, go for it. What do you need from me? Right? You need more resources? I love it. I think you're onto something. And now what I'm separating your role from your identity. I'm like, I believe you're a League of Superhero type of person right here. That's why you're on the team. You're awesome. But just because you're awesome doesn't mean everything we do is going to be awesome. So I don't want you to have the expectation that your identity is based on this event or this metric being awesome. I just believe if it's going to be awesome, we're going to need an awesome person like you to help us get there. And if it's not going to be awesome, we're going to give it our best shot. And if we can't make it awesome with an awesome person, then at least we knew it's not because we didn't try. So let's be scientists about grow. And here's what I love about it. I can have that in 15 minutes. I can have that on a phone. I can have that eyeball to eyeball. Matter of fact, if it's going to be a hard conversation, I like to have it shoulder to shoulder, not eyeball to eyeball. Because it's a lot easier for someone to receive tough news and share tough things if they're not making eye contact on you. And I don't know what John Deloney would say about that, but I'm just saying that I think there's some psychology to, if I'm sitting in a car with you and we're talking and we're looking and I can periodically look at you, it's easy to really be honest with my feelings. And you as well. So just think about that if it's going to be a hard conversation. But one-on-ones, if you're like, I don't like one-on-ones, here's what we typically do. We don't do them. If we don't do one-on-ones, this is going to blow your mind. It doesn't get measured, right? And if metric's important, it should be measured. If it doesn't get evaluated, then it's probably not going to grow. So those are some things that we do for one-on-ones. With that, we're also going to have team meetings. I would try and have my one-on-ones every week, and you're like, man, that's a lot. But if you can do this, you can do that in 15 minutes. Have longer quarterly meetings, but then it's like, we're just doing check-in. What's the goal? What's the reality? What's the obstacle or opportunity that made it happen? And what's the way forward? Awesome. Sounds like you're on the right track. What do you need from me? And if people hear you always repeat the goal. Listen, some of you think, I know what the goal is, and my team should know what the goal is because I shared it on Vision Sunday in January. Okay? I've been at my place now 8 months, which is long enough for my buzzwords to be mocked, okay? And I'm all right with that. If people aren't mocking your words, maybe you ain't saying them enough. So people around me are like, mission alignment, is that missionally aligned, right? I'm like, yep, it's a great question, I get it. And you're gonna keep hearing that from me. Missionally aligned, right? That's what we do, that's who we are. And that's all right. You're gonna have your buzzwords. They're gonna win their bingo games because of your buzzwords. Keep saying them, right? Keep saying them. So repetition is the mother of memory, right? It's the father of boredom, but that's all right. Still the mother of memory. So that's all right. Okay. And then when we get together with teams, I'll just hit this quickly. 6 C's of every team meeting, which is probably annoying. For me, I just need to be able to remember it to make it sticky for me. Not because they all should be in C's, but I use thesaurus.com probably too much. Just so it makes it easy for me is 1, connect. Every time I'm meeting with a team, whether this is the 10 of us together, our whole volunteer team getting together, we're doing a party at our house to celebrate once a quarter, or if this is my monthly staff meeting, I'm gonna make sure, 1, I connect. We're just gonna hang out. We got some food in the back. We're gonna spend 15 minutes of our meeting or 10 minutes of our meeting, just connect. Say, hey, in the next 10 minutes, we're gonna get going in about 10 minutes because there's some people who go right to their seat and they're like, this is an epic waste of time. I got stuff to do. You gotta let them know and communicate out loud that, hey, part of being on a team is just getting to know each other. I got y'all in here. I want you to be here because we're more than content. We're a community here. So let's connect. As you connect, here's an assignment for you. Find out blah, 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 and then, give a prize or something. But connect, because my team's a gift, and I want them to know that the gift is that they're not doing this alone. Second thing, celebrate. What's working well? How do you do that in a team meeting? So my team meetings were so predictable. I ran this stinking script all the time. So then, celebrate. What are some wins? What are some wins? What are some wins from the weekend? What are some wins from your area of ministry? And I would say that early. Say, hey, we're about to share some wins. We're going to say it out loud. In just a second, we're going to do that. What I'm looking for wins from your area. You've been working hard. I want you to share out loud. There are some people who showed up today, and they're kind of going through the motions, but what you share about your area of ministry is going to encourage them because maybe they're struggling, so we're going to need that out loud here in just a second. We're not quite there yet, but here's why this is important to us, because we want to celebrate. What gets celebrated gets elevated. What gets elevated gets celebrated, and that's going to be very important. So in just a second, I'm going to have a couple of you share some wins, right? And then, so I'm letting them know I need to, and there's going to be some extrovert out there that feels really bad for you, and then you say, okay, what are some wins? Let's say them out loud. Let's keep thinking. Someone's going to say it. Okay, while you keep thinking, I'm going to have a couple of you share. I want to share one, right? And then I will say, hey, I know that kind of feels awkward, but that's all right. I'm all right doing something clumsy that's going to be important, and there will be a time where we're fighting over each other to get our wins out. And that's all right. And so let's keep doing it because there's people around you that need the space to be able to share. And it's fine for me if this feels awkward for you because it's really important that we're gonna get there. And then before next meeting, I'm gonna be like, okay, Nate, please bring a win, okay? I'm gonna be walking through it, okay? So we connect, we celebrate some wins, and then a lot of times, then you kind of become, you're the surgeon, you're the guiding, right? So sometimes the wins are not wins. You're like, I don't know, that's a missional win right there. Like, it was awesome, none of the students showed up, so we were able to just have a cool leader time. So now my job, one, if it's like extreme like that, we all laugh, say, okay, I don't know if that's a win, but I'm glad that felt like a win. That's awesome. We'll have fun with it. Or be like, it's interesting. Sometimes things happen, and why is it important for us to connect? A couple people out loud. Why is that important? Done. That's great. And man, that's a win when leaders can do this. And so I'm going to steer it towards a win for the mission. Right? And then afterwards, I will go and say, hey, that actually was a loss. So, let's walk through this. So I've got to be able to do that, right? Because it's the culture you're trying to create. So celebrate. Then cultivate, okay, who we are, who we aspire to be. I'll remind people all the time, hey, we got 5 staff values, okay? We're going to hustle, okay? We're going to work hard. We're going to be hopeful, right? We're raging optimists. We're going to be helpful. It's never not my job. We're going to be hungry to grow in our faith. And we're going to hustle. We're going to be humble. It's never about me. All right, so those are our 5 values, our H's, right? Again, thesaurus. But the thing is, we'd say, hey, who's an example of someone on this team, and I'll pick one who's been doing this. Hey, here's the award. You win our Silver Buckle of the Month award, da-da-da-da-da. And what I'm doing is, and they nominate that, but I'm trying, what's a vision element of who we are as a community that we want to honor, right? We want to honor this. And it's actually an excuse for me to teach before I get the chance to teach. I'm actually highlighting something on purpose. This is who we are. So we'll say, hey, so we connect for a few minutes. We celebrate what are some wins. Hey, we've got an award. Several of you nominated this award. We've got this gift card here. The award we're nominating is to so-and-so. Hey, you nominated them. Will you talk about it? Da-da-da-da. Hey, we're not always like that, because sometimes people will use your mission against you as a weapon, right? So I'll always say, hey, we don't always show up like this. We want to, we aspire to, right? And so on our best days, this is who we want to be. And so thank you so much. You represent who we want to be on our best days. That was awesome, right? And so then you go on to correct what needs alignment, okay? What is it that needs alignment? You know, what needs tweaked, right? And that could be a quick thing, and that doesn't need to be a heavy thing, but you're just saying, okay, for me, I'm thinking, okay, what's something I don't like? Like maybe we're saying, hey, we don't feel we're doing a great job of community outreach right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring some vision of why the church outside the walls is important. Hey, one of the things, we're not ready to attack this. I just want us to be praying about this. What would it look like if we were better at this? I don't know that we're awesome at this area yet. Let's just be thinking about that. We're going to be talking about that in the coming months. I'm just trying to pace and coach change, and then we're going to coach something. Hey, here are some best practices. And that might be connected. So like, hey, here's something I want to correct about our church, about our staff. And I'll say, hey, here's the tension of why this would be a challenge if we let this go uncoached. And then say, okay, here are the 4 things we can do about it. Here's the things we can do now, right, about it. And then we commit. Okay, so what's the next step? What am I asking for all of us? So that's what I want to do in every team meeting. If my team meeting, even if it's a volunteer party, I can just shrink this really quick or expend some areas of this. I just want you to know, say, hey, it could be a volunteer party. Say, man, I love this. Hey, one of the things, we've built community. I don't know if you noticed, but we're such a strong community. Sometimes we're intimidating. You might not even notice it because you enjoy our community so much. Our worship team here, there are some people who want to be on this worship team, and they're intimidated by how connected we are. So let's be intentional that when we're out in the lobby and we're looking for people. Here's your next step. Here's 3 things to do, okay? I want you to meet 3 people every Sunday. I want you to not stand within 5 feet of a wall because the wall's are magnets, and I want you to, but whatever. And then so here's your next step. Next step, I want you by next month to have 2 names of people that you think might be a great fit for this team. Instead of like, you guys are cliques and I'm tired of hearing about it, right? Let's just figure it out. And let's go. Lead. That's who we are. So we coach to it. And so those are the things in the team meeting. And then how do I rep the vision? And this is something I think is important anytime you're a team. I would expect this of my team. And my team should expect this of me. When we're leading something as a team, 3 things, REP. And they're not the same letters, okay? They are an acronym. I'm sorry about that. 1, first level of leadership, and it's the lowest level of leadership. When you can repeat your boss's vision, that's low leadership. I mean, you should be able to repeat your boss's vision, but that's low leadership. Second level is when you can explain it. But the highest level is when you can promote it, okay? So I always ask our team, how do we rep the vision? Not repeat it. Here's what repeating sounds like. Why are we going to 2 services next fall? Because Pastor Jeremy wants to go to 2 services next fall. He told us in the staff meeting. Man, that was helpful. Thanks for your leadership. That's honestly, wow. You know, how do I do this without you? I'm about to figure it out. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so don't repeat, explain. Well, here's what we found, right? We can currently fit who is coming in our one service, but for us to reach more people, it would be helpful if we have another option. And we feel when we do that, that could be great. So that's why they landed there. That's better, but it's not enough. We need to get to where we can promote it. Oh, man, this is actually exciting. We're going to be able to dun, 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 dun. We. I'm repping the vision. It's my vision. It's our vision. And so here's what I say to my staff. Okay? Ask any question you need to ask right here to me so that you can promote this without lying. So what conversation do we need to have right now? Because when we're done with the conversation, we're all repping this sucker. So let's go for it. Right? So we're a team. Now, and I'm not like, hey, you rep what I'm trying to say. So again, we go back to the last session of like how we say things, right? But it's like, listen, this is going to be important. This is the why. I always lead with why. Why is the most important question any leader can ask, right? Or can answer is why. Why we do this. Lead with the why. Show them your why before you tell them your what. And so then you're like, okay, this is why we believe in this. Here's what I think is going to happen as a leadership team if you're still trying to figure it out. What do you think? Poke holes in this. Is this going to address the why? Is there another what out there? Is there another how out there that addresses the why? Let's figure this out. And then let's be honest. Don't be like, well, just because you're the senior associate in this team, you have to win. So like, okay, well, I got a few questions about that one. And let's look at this like scientists and get it on the lab and say, okay, let's figure it out. Hey, do we all believe in this? And this isn't going to be perfect, but do we believe this helps us do what we're going to do? Okay, now let's rep it. And then I will tell our team, what's a bad way to rep this? What's a way that you can tell people outside this room that would be lame, that would be just repeating it? Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be terrible. That's a great example of a terrible way. How about this? What would it look like to explain it? And then I have them do it. We do this at every turn. Okay, someone give me an example of how to promote it. Wow. Someone else? Wow. Okay, it's important. Let's promote this thing. Let's rep this vision. Go if I win. We can do that with volunteers. So we do that, the team, and then 2 vital culture questions, and then we'll hit some Q&A. Before lunch, is this. I'm always asking as a team leader, what is it we want and don't have? And the second question is, what is it we have and don't want? These are culture questions. Anytime you walk into something new, like I would say the hardest job, I'm so focused on this right now because I just have transition, right? And so walking into an established culture wasn't my culture. It's not bad. It's not mine. And so I've got to, and guess what? It produced perfectly the results they were having. In any setting that you walk into, that's going to be true. So what you got to walk into is say, what is it we don't have that we want? How do I as a leader now get us there? How do I create the tension that they even want it? Because right now they don't know they want it, so I got to create some tension, right? And I got to figure out what's the winsome way to win some, right? And we got to figure out how do we get that tension away where you're wanting me to address this. And what do we have? We don't want to play that. Homie, don't play that, right? We're not going to do that. So how do I identify it? And then I got to put it on paper, right? I got to figure it out, and then I got to coach and lead towards that. Culture comes from a Latin word, right? That means literally to create an environment that gives you the best ability to grow the thing you want to grow. So some things are weeds you got to get out of there, and some things are soil you got to pour into. So we got to figure that out. When we lead our team, we have good one-on-one meetings. And then we have great team gatherings. And then we're able to teach our team to rep the vision, rep the mission, right? And then we're able to always guard the culture and evaluate the culture. I think that helps us with some teams. Those are some general things. We want to hit some specific things. And so I'm going to invite Kevin to hit. And I will go speed mode. I have a tendency to answer longer than I should. So I'll go quick.
I'm going to derail you up. I'm going to derail you off of leadership for just a second.
I was done with it
anyway. A
anyway.
question, because you are employed by Northwest University, and
yeah.
a question that's here. With the clear cultural moment that we're in our society today, and this penetration of progressive theology, wokeness in our institutions, all of that, we're going to put you on the spot. How are you preventing that at Northwest? How are you correcting that? And Jeremy, I want to platform you at this moment, not just to answer that question, but to rep Northwest University for us. You have an opportunity of a group of people here that need to hear the value of it. I love Northwest. You love Northwest. Why?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I love Northwest. It was the single greatest environment of my life that formed me for decades. Absolutely love it. If I could do anything to help that be true for the next several decades, I'm in, right? I'm not here because it was a natural career path, right? And anybody who works here would know that, right? I come from the church. So I believe in it. Perception's reality, and reality's reality. The perception is this of universities, that they indoctrinate your kids towards progressive theology and progressive politics and all sorts of ideologies, right? That's the thought, that if you go to a university, you're going to tear down, they're going to tear down your faith. That's the perception. And Northwest has not been that. Northwest is not that. Northwest will not be that, but it's not enough to not be that. Our biggest challenge right now is to be so stinking white hot for our faith, so stinking white hot for Jesus, and proud of the Assemblies of God heritage we have and doctrine that we embody and carry out, that we need to do our very best to make it obvious to the students who are there, this is a place you're going to hear from Jesus. This is a place that's going to build your faith, not tear down your faith. And then eventually, one of my jobs right now is to go around to churches and churches and churches and let them know, hey, this is who we are, this is what Northwest is, and if we can gain your trust, we'll do everything possible to do that. Because for whatever reason, however we got there, through what I talked about last session about tribalism and even some of that makes some people feel like Northwest was on the wrong side of an equation that they felt they couldn't trust. And I don't even think that that's all that, there's a lot of reality to it, but there's enough examples that it's enough reality for some where the enrollment funnels have been turned off. The faucet of enrollment has been turned off for a lot of people because they didn't trust exactly what you said. So my job is to guard the soul of this university. And I've got a brilliant faculty, a brilliant staff, a brilliant team of people who are going to do that. But one of my unique jobs is to say, listen, here's the fear. Here's why this is so important here. Conversations I have yesterday and today are about missional alignment. And here's where compassion fits in. Here's where conviction fits in. And we lean towards conviction in a compassionate way, not towards compassion and put too much value with empathy, because empathy could be evil if you don't have conviction that grounds it. So all that to say is it starts with every faculty repping the vision, repping the mission. And to say things like this, these are the kind of conversations I have with faculty and staff. If you feel like when you hear us talk about the Assemblies of God and the kind of white hot faith we're going to be at every level, and you're asking yourself, I think I could work there. Could I work there? Let me help you say, no, that's not who we're looking for. But if you're saying this is what I was born to do, that's who we want on this team. And so I want everyone to have a chance to say yes and amen again. And if anything about that feels like it's not alignment, let me affirm that it is not. And let's go from there. And here's what I found at every turn. The people that are there are not there because of the paycheck, because they can get paid across the pond a lot more to do the same thing. They're there because they believe in the mission. My job is to help them understand the little foxes that are a big deal and to help us be the thing that they want to be. So there are some things that we need to tweak, and we are tweaking, but I am confident in that. But that's going to be mission number one. And then you don't fix culture and then don't weed things again. You fix culture, but it's every training, it's every conversation, it's every hire, it's every challenge. You're using all this. Man, I will milk every crisis right now to make it a missional moment. And we're going to do that, and we're going to keep nailing that. And I'm proud of the team. They're so patient with me, and they're working faster than people always say about education. It's like, man, they're committed to this thing. So, yeah, so I see how people get there, but if we take our foot off the gas pedal of mission, then we will become UW with a chapel in no time, and we won't do that. We won't do that. So, yeah, other questions?
Thank you so much. I just feel like I feel we need to pray for him. Can we do that? I think this is a mission that we need to back. God, we thank you for Jeremy. I thank you for Northwest University, that you have placed it in our region. And God, I just pray that you've placed him in this job for such a time as this. God, we ask that you'd give wisdom. We ask you to bring the right team. God, we ask that you'd help us to promote it. God, would you help us to step behind what needs to be behind? God, this is a landmark, not just a historical thing, but God, we want it to be a future thing. Yes. And God, we want it to be a legacy that we can give to students. And so, God, there are many in this room that have been impacted by this university, that have been changed and transformed. God, we pray that this would continue to move forward. And God, Jeremy is the person to lead this. God, would you give him the wisdom and the strength and the words in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Hey, thank you.
As we have been a nation or a denomination, a fellowship that has been influenced by dynamic women in our history, dynamic women in our present, dynamic women in the future, this question, I think, sets it up very well. How do we prepare our churches? How do we prepare our teams to advocate for women in ministry, in leadership? How do we help break down barriers that are there just because of culture and society?
Such a good question, so timely. And it'll continue to be timely during different times. But right now is one of those times. So let's go back to the previous session of how we say things. Our words shape worlds. So if I'm talking to people who are passionate about, this is a conversation stopper, women in ministry, like I'm against it. One, I could say in our fellowship, and I don't assume that's true for everybody here, but it's true for the group that licensed you, that we would rep the vision that we believe there is neither male nor female in the ministry and call of God, right? And so our history is marked by that as evidence. So here's what I would say. I'd say, hey, there are some people, let's say that this room is divided and I'm talking to, I'd say, there are some people that are divided. Is ministry reserved for a particular gender? Fascinating question. And there are some on both sides of that are opinionated, and you've been shaped. You've been shaped by this. You probably didn't come to your personal opinion right now on accident. And when I even say that, there's an internal tension that you're feeling, and there are people you're thinking of that have strong opinions about women in ministry, either way. But here's what I would think that we would probably all agree. Probably none of us are opposed to women in ministry because we believe a woman can be a missionary around the world. So really the question for us is, we believe women could be in ministry in America. We've already determined that women can be in ministry outside of America. So now we really have to talk about that question. Well, so if you're like tribal and you're like, oh, that doesn't sound near as fun to cheer on, right? Now, I believe a woman could be a minister somewhere else. That might be an angle I'd go for it. Or I bring in scripture and say, hey, this is this. I want to preach to it, teach to it, and say, hey, I know that this might be different from what some of you experienced. I want to give you permission to dive into scripture and walk through this. We're going to continue to walk through this in scripture. Here's why I land so excited to honor the women in ministry here in our fellowship, here in our church, and why for me, it's not a deal breaker. I understand how you got there. I get it. Here are some recommended resources I think would be fair to consider. But here at this place, while we don't make you agree with us for you to attend here, here's why we celebrate this as a leadership team. And so I'm going to continue to be very clear of what we are, give you an on-ramp that you're not the jerk, right? But I want you to come on this journey with us. I want to give you some resources, and I want to help you think a little differently. Maybe one more question I know that we got to hit.
One more question.
Yep.
Can I combine? I'm going to combine
Oh,
two.
yeah, let's do it.
If frustrations and challenges go up, where do the frustrations of the first chair go to? Is question number one.
Yep.
And how do you maintain and audit your culture that you want to embody? You kind of dialogued it amongst as your staff, but what happens if there's team members that are off culture? How do you bring redirection? What's the ultimate price or cost at the end?
Okay. I want to make sure I get to that second part. So, but let me start with this. Every pastor needs a pastor, right? Because one, you have a board, right? If you have a board, then you're able to use them. There could be frustrations that you have if they're not emotional for you, and it's strategic, it's questions, or you've processed it where it's not like, emotional, like, like, how come I never get a raise and I'm sad and, this is a burden on my family. I'm not ready yet to have a conversation because now I'm still at fan mode. I'm a big fan of me, okay? I got to be able to have a better conversation. If I can process a non-emotional conversation, go to your board. Hey, here are a few things. Let's talk about this. A board member, who's the leader? Who's someone that you can talk to? Have a conversation over breakfast, right? So yes, you can go there. But if it's a wound, and it's from the board, you don't go to the board to fix the wound, right? If it's a wound that is not yet processed in a way that's easy for people to respond, and you're making them feel like you're a victim, don't go to the board. That's not healthy, because again, people will feel bad for you. They ain't gonna follow you if you're doing that. So what you gotta do is, if you've got a wound you need to process, and we all do, go to someone that you can help. That's why I'm a big fan of having a counselor, right? Someone say, here's what I feel, right? And I'm just blah, 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 and they're gonna fix it all up like a Rubik's Cube and hand it out back to me and say, hey, is this what you're talking about? Like, yep, okay, I'm good now, right? Or a mentor, whatever you need to do. Have someone that you can be unpolished with, but when it's a working relationship, don't probably go there until it's polished, right? A little bit. So use someone to do that. So you need to have that. And ultimately, utilize the board, because they're hobbyists. This is your job. So you're going to have to get on their calendar. You're going to have to think about it. Don't project their lack of excitement about you by their lack of initiation on your schedule. So let's figure that out. Second thing is, if you got a key staff member who's not yet on Vision 1, if they're a key staff member, bring them close and just say, hey, what do you think? I can sense your body language. I don't know if you noticed this, but your body language, it did not feel like you were on board, right? Help me, walk me through this. What's going on? Again, I'm going to give you permission that I'm not offended, but I also want to make it clear I notice, right? It looks like people go to you for the meeting after the meeting. Like, I don't know what it takes to get an invitation, but I'm curious, okay? What's the agenda in the meeting after the meeting? Like, talk to me. And if they're like, what are they going to say about that? So then, or there's a good person. They're like, I just see it differently. Okay, I value you. You're a key staff member. Let them know you're a key. You see it differently. Do we see the mission differently, or do we see the method differently? Let's figure that out. And if it's mission, then it's easy. Okay. This is strongly the mission, right? So we've got to see that together. So you at least got to rep it for a while, fake it to make it for a while. And if you don't get there, then probably you need to get, right? And that's not bad. It's just God uses that to help you stir. That's fine. But ultimately, the mission's not up for grabs. This is the mission, but don't be a jerk when you say it. But that's the mission. But if it's method, let's talk. And then ultimately say, hey, we could be wrong. After we talk about it, this seems right. Let's do it this way. And if we need to split for a season, great, that's fine too. But mission first, people always. What's the cost of it? The cost is you lose your buddy. Never hire someone you can't fire. So I have my son-in-law. My son-in-law, I hired him before he was my son-in-law. He didn't know my daughter. He was my youth pastor. And then he started and his dad died during this process, right? And so we were close. Like, he's coming to the house. I'm like, bro, you're we're family. This is your guest room. Okay, whatever you need. You're coming to watch the games all the time. Like, you're my son. Like, and he would use that word. I wasn't projecting myself anyway. But so we were talking like fam talk. Then he meets my daughter when she comes home from college, and they start dating. So I take him out. Not like that, but but I say, here's the deal. Okay, I know you're my son, but you're also you know, I'm also your boss. I'm your dad and your boss. I got 2 hats, and I'm not afraid to wear both of them. Don't you dare date my daughter in a way that would make me fire you, because I'd have no problem doing it. As a matter of fact, I'd probably sleep better at night firing you if you did something dumb. I just want you to know that's on the table. And what I would do is I would have a hard conversation with you, and I'd say, son, I got 2 hats. I'm gonna put on my boss hat, and I'd say, Terrell, you're fired. And then I'd put on my dad hat and say, son, I heard you lost your job today. You wanna talk? I have no problem. We'll do both. But this is the expectations, right? So here's it. What can it cost someone? Everything. I always say this, but I like to lead. I hold my roll loosely, mission tightly, roll loosely. There will be a day when it is not best for me to be the president of Northwest University. I hope I'm one of the first to realize that, right? I don't want to be the last one. There will be a day where it makes sense where I'm not the president of Northwest. So we've already determined that. I will one day golf in Florida as a retired person and laugh about my time at Northwest, right? So now I've determined that I don't need to hold this tightly. So I will say to the team, while I'm here, I need to be about it. My job is to guard the mission. We're going to do that. That's what we're going to do. Whether it's 3 years, whether it's 13 years, I'm not entitled to that. I'm a steward of the day that I have today. So today I'm going to get after it, right? So let's do that today. And the truth is, all of you are in the same boat. One day, none of us will work here. So while we work here, we're going to work here, and we're not going to stiff arm the day when it's obvious we shouldn't. So let's enjoy the time we have. And, you know, transitions are awkward anyway. Let's get the awkward transition over with quickly, and that's fine. We do not value longevity for longevity's sake. We value mission. And if we get to do it a long time, cool. But when the day comes, and I'll tell people, I tell this in job interviews too. I have to have a hard conversation today in a job interview because I got 2 people that I'm in love with for one job. So one of them I have to say, and I told them at the very beginning, listen, I love you. I'm rooting for you to get the job. I'm also rooting for someone else to get the job, and I love them too. But I love you so much. I want you. I know we're friends. I need you to be honest in the process. Even if we get to the very end and you change your mind because something seems off to you, you need to be honest with me and say, Jeremy, I can't take this job. Do you promise you'll do that? Because I promise I'll do that with you. As much as I love you, there is no way I'll let our relationship sabotage what God puts in my gut when it comes to this hire. So I'm going to start with you being the bad guy for me and giving you permission, and I'll let you know I'll do the same thing. And now, do what's mission first, but people always, do it in a kind of dignified way. So, hey, leadership is a fun challenge. It's new every morning, but so are the mercies of God. God bless you. It's been an honor to be with you. Oregon Ministry Network, thank you so much, Pastor Lee, for letting us be with you.